Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. I'm just enjoying some nice breakfast here on this rainy day. Bro, what are you doing? Don't you know that's gonna ruin your hormones? It's gonna make you grow boobs! Bro, I think you need to watch this video. So welcome back to Planted Nutrition. My name's Luke, I'm a qualified nutritionist, and it's time to talk about the controversial and often misunderstood legume, soy. And I've wanted to make this video for a while because this is something that I see so often online. You're always seeing posts, soy is terrible or soy is great, and when we're constantly seeing different people's opinion without really understanding the science, it can be really easy to be confused. And when we see one study saying this, one study saying that, how can we reconcile them and understand what the science is really saying? And in this video, I also want to talk to you a little bit about critical thinking, because when we're able to critically analyze claims that we see online, we don't even always need to understand the science on the topic. We can just kind of dissect the claims and understand whether they're really true or whether it's someone just trying to sell a narrative, create fear, or boost themselves up in the algorithms by creating controversy. So generally in science, when we're trying to answer a question, we do research. And there's lots of different types of research studies. There's some that are in cells, like in a petri dish, or there's some that are done in animals, like often mice and rats. And then there are studies done in humans. So we've got different types of studies in humans. There's ones that follow people over time to see if they develop certain diseases. And then we also have clinical trials where we randomize different people into different groups and we do an intervention in one of the groups and we can see if that particular intervention has an effect. And these ones are more controlled, obviously, because we've got a group to compare them to called the control group. And when we're looking at a particular topic, in this case soy, we want to look at human research, obviously. And this is the first thing that I see with lots of these things that people are sharing online. Often they're sharing studies that have been done in rats or mice, and they've often been given huge doses of concentrated extracts from soy. And firstly, when we're eating soy, we never get to those levels. But secondly, it's not in a human. Although rats and mice can be a model to help us understand how certain things work, often when we take that into humans, it doesn't play out the same. So the first thing we want to be looking at is human data. And I saw this one a while ago. It was a tweet from someone saying, if soy really did give you boobs, it would be one of the best-selling supplements in the world for women. And just think about this for a second. If soy really did give us boobs, wouldn't we see more men walking around with boobs? I mean, it sounds silly, right? But I see this all the time. This is one of the most common claims, that soy feminizes men or it stops testosterone production. And just thinking critically, like thinking about a population that eats a lot of soy, like Southeast Asian cultures, Japan, do we see men in those countries walking around with breasts? And so when we apply critical thinking, do we really need evidence? Of course we still want evidence, but the claim starts to fall apart a little bit when we can see it through this perspective. When we can ask a few questions and see the topic from another perspective, it's really easier to see deeper into the matter at hand. And now let's get into the research. And I've talked about the different levels of evidence in humans, such as epidemiological studies, which follow people over time, and then we've got clinical trials, which randomize people to different groups, and how generally randomized controlled trials, they kind of tell us a little bit more about a certain topic because they're more controlled. We're looking for converging lines of evidence. So when we're getting similar results from clinical trials, from epidemiological studies, they're all kind of fitting together and giving us an overview of the field, looking at the bigger picture. And then we've also got studies called meta-analyses, and these pull together the findings from lots of different studies so we can look at them all together and draw even stronger conclusions. And obviously there's still issues with meta-analyses as well, but they can give us a greater degree of certainty on the outcomes and also the recommendations we make from these studies. And so the first study I'm going to share with you is a meta-analysis looking at the question, does soy have an effect on male hormones? Does it feminize men? In this study, they looked at 41 different clinical trials, pulled them all together into this one analysis, and they found in all of these studies overall, there was no effect of soy on testosterone in men. And again, this is good human data. We're not looking at animal studies here. And this is men that are having several servings of soy per day generally. It's just not something that we need to worry about. So the next one that I hear often is the effect that soy has on our thyroid. And I've seen posts online, people saying that soy is toxic for our thyroid. But again, when we look into the research, this is just not the case. So I've got another study for you here, another meta-analysis looking at 18 different human trials, and they found, again, no effect on thyroid hormone. So again, something that we don't have to worry about. Next one is that people say soy is inflammatory. So we've got another meta-analysis looking at this question. This one looked at 36 different studies, and they were measuring a marker called C-reactive protein, which is basically just a marker of inflammation in the body. And they found that not only did soy not cause inflammation, that less processed soy foods like soy milk, tofu, and tempeh actually reduced inflammation in people, and more processed forms of soy had no effect on inflammation. And here we have yet another meta-analysis looking at a different inflammatory marker in the body, and they also found that soy lowered inflammation. So looking at a huge variety of different studies in humans, we find again and again that soy isn't inflammatory. If anything, it's actually anti-inflammatory. So again, another claim that we can put to rest. And let's do one more, and this is that soy is bad for the environment. I see people saying online soy is linked to deforestation, they're cutting down the Amazon rainforest to grow soy. So when we look at the data around soy and the environment, almost 80% of all of the soy produced worldwide is used for feed, for livestock, for industrial meat and dairy production. And only about 6 or 7% is actually used for food directly for human consumption. So if you really do care about the environment and deforestation, and I know it's something that I deeply care about, you should probably consider eating less meat and maybe less dairy, depending on where you live in the world, because this is really what's driving deforestation and soy growth. And eating tofu and tempeh and soy milk and all of these soy foods is only a tiny piece of that. And most of the soy used in these foods is non-GMO, so it's actually not coming from these countries that are deforesting, they're all growing GMO soybeans. And so maybe soy isn't bad, but is it really good for us? Let's have a look at some of the evidence around that. Soy is a great source of protein and many other nutrients. If we're having calcium set tofu or calcium fortified soy milk, it's a great source of calcium, as well as iron, manganese, copper, and selenium, as well as many other essential micronutrients. And I have yet another meta-analysis to share with you. And this one looked at 23 different studies with over 330,000 people, and they found that higher soy intake was linked to lower all-cause mortality. So that's dying for any reason. So it's essentially helping to reduce risk of heart disease, certain cancers, stroke, diabetes, things like that. And when we look at the wider literature, again, there's more evidence that soy can support our heart health and lower our risk of heart attacks, heart disease, and stroke. And it may also help to lower blood pressure, improve fertility, reduce menopause symptoms, improve bone health, reduce the risk of breast, endometrial, and digestive cancers, lower our risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and it may even help with our cognitive function. For a full list of all of the benefits and all of the scientific references cited in this video, check out the article on my website. The link is in the description below. And so with such an impressive list of benefits, when we actually look into the scientific evidence, it makes me wonder why people love to demonize soy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So to sum it all up, when we look at the data around soy, not only is it not bad for us, if anything, it's actually a very healthy food to include in a balanced diet. It's a great source of protein as well as many other nutrients, and it can help reduce our risk of many different diseases. There's so many different amazing recipes with tofu. Tempeh is another great one, soy milk, soy protein, even miso soup, things like that. I've actually got a delicious recipe for a miso ramen with baked tofu on my website. I'll put a link to that in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new, and it's maybe helped you to clear a little bit of confusion around soy. So next time you see a post online, you're able to see maybe what study they're citing. Are they even citing a study? And is that study in humans or is it in animals? And if it is in humans, is it a well-designed, rigorous study? Because when we look at the best data that we have, soy is a very beneficial food for most of us.